What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another FBX live stream. We got a lot of content to go through today. So we're going to cover what's transpired so far in free agency. We're also going to cover my top 5 edge rushers along with my top 5 defensive linemen. And then I'm also doing 3 full team mock drafts today, being with the New England Patriots, the New York Giants, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, to go ahead and start talking about our free agency. Ooh. Let me go ahead and fix this camera right here. Sorry, y'all, I'm still getting new to this live streaming thing, so some of the things will be a little transition-wise will be a little So we're going to go ahead and start off with our receivers. I think our receiver market has been the one that has seen the most massive moves made in terms of players switching teams. You have a bunch of receivers switching teams. You don't just have one or two or like one big trade or one major release. You've seen a ton of different key receivers get released and find new teams. One of those that really started the trend of the receiver market was Deebo Samuel being traded during the combine to the Commanders. I think that in itself is a massive pickup for the Commanders. You pair him up with Terry McLaurin, and I believe you could possibly have one of the best, or at least a top 10 receiving duo if Deebo can stay healthy. And then they bring back Zach Ertz. So I think what the Commanders are doing, putting great weapons around Jaden Daniels, is going to set them up for a terrific offensive performance next year, in my opinion. Now, one team that has also moved some receivers around is Seattle Seahawks. Not only did they release Tyler Lockett, they also traded DK Metcalf to the Steelers. Now, when that trade was under works and they announced the trade, DK going from Seattle to Pittsburgh, I honestly didn't quite understand the moves that Seattle was making. At the same time, I don't really think that was the best fit for DK going to the Steelers, because I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil between, George Pickens and DK Metcalf. You're going to have two guys that basically want to be the number one receiver, and it's all going to be about how Mike Tomlin and the rest of the coaching staff can kind of organize that. What's going to go down between what I believe is going to go down between DK and George Pickens. Now, the Seattle Seahawks turned around and picked up Cooper Kupp, right? They got Cooper from the Rams, and then they brung in Sam Darnold. So now you got a little cheaper of an offense, and from what it looks like, they're going to want to focus more on the run, especially from what I've heard. They're going to want to focus more on the run. So bringing in Cooper Kupp, that gritty receiver that is willing to block, I think that's a good thing for Seattle's offense. Plus, the style that Jackson Smith plays at, I think, kind of feels similar to Cooper Kupp's style of play. So now, Jackson Smith can probably learn a little bit from Cooper, and you're going to see Jackson Smith take that next jump next year. I think you're going to see a huge jump in his performance. And then we can't, forget about the Rams. They're losing Cooper Kupp, so Puka Nacua is going to be the feature receiver next season. I was wondering what they're going to do about receiver 2, because I don't think Puka can handle the entire workload. So what did they do? The Rams decided to bring in Davante Adams. I think this will play a good complement to Puka Nacua. You're losing a little bit in the blocking scheme compared to Cooper Kupp and Davante Adams. But in terms of receiving ability and route running, Davante Adams is one of the best in the league, in my opinion. I know he's had some injuries, so you're not losing terms of receiver value too much with going Davante instead of Cooper. Now, you've also had some D-line moves, right? And I think fortifying the trenches should have been a lot of teams' the first focus point of the offseason should have been fortifying the trenches. And there's one team in particular that has really taken this and ran with it, and that's being the Vikings. Jonathan Allen once was with the Commanders before being released and then signs with the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings turn around and get Javon Hargrave, who was once with the 49ers, once with the Eagles. Now he's with the Vikings. So you really see the Vikings building up the trenches. And I like that a whole lot for a team that really wasn't as lackluster and a lot of people expected them to be coming into the season, right? Not a lot of people expected Sam Darnold to perform the way he was performing. I don't think a lot of people expected Jordan Addison to play complementary to Justin Jefferson, and I don't think a lot of people thought Aaron Jones was going to be a reliable running back. I think some people were concerned about injuries. But then you've seen what they formulated on offense. Well, now J.J. McCarthy's coming back and he's healthy. You still kept Aaron Jones. You still got Jordan Addison. You still got Justin Jefferson. You even went and made a trade to get Jordan Mason, just so if Aaron Jones does go down, you have a complimentary RB2 to kind of put behind J.J. McCarthy. So now what's the next step? What is going to help this team elevate to the next level? And that is going to be fortifying your trenches and getting some defensive help. Now, obviously they can address their other defensive issues later on throughout free agency and in the draft, because, we still got a little over a month until the NFL draft. Another move that I'm so glad has finally happened. I've been advocating for this move, I think, since last season or the year before. Grady Jarrett going to the Bears. I've been advocating that Grady Jarrett should leave the Falcons, release, or be traded from the Falcons in some manner, because he was a major cap hit on us and he is dealing with some major injuries, right? So we were really never really getting the true Grady Jarrett on the field 24/7 or on the field every weekend. We were getting a version that was hurt, or we wouldn't get him at all because he was hurt. So the move on from Grady Jarrett, him going to the Bears, I think that would be a good fit for him, especially a good thing for the Falcons. Now, Milton Williams. I don't think he was deserving of the biggest contract this offseason, but he definitely locked up the biggest contract for the defensive lineman this offseason. And hey, money gets, you show out, you get paid your contract, and you got to own up to what you got paid. So I personally think he was the right fit for the New England Patriots. Do I believe he was worth all that money? No, you can probably get him for a little cheaper of a contract, but when you look at the overall contracts that some of these other players are getting, it's kind of understandable why Milton Williams would get the contract that he's gotten. So that's the rundown on the receivers and your defensive linemen. That's happened so far this offseason. I think a lot that has happened with the free agency has really shaped up what my mock drafts are going to be. And I would say this now. Mock draft number 2, you can go ahead and just erase that from your memories, because right now it doesn't matter anymore, right? Mock draft number 2 does not matter whatsoever with what's happened in free agency. I figured some of the players were going to stay with what team that I had them selected at. But when I drop mock draft 3, you got another 3 weeks, because we're a little over 30 days away from the NFL draft. So with that being said, I'm not going to drop mock draft 3 until film watch. Now, we're going to start off with my top 5 defensive edge rushers. My top 5 edge rushers. At number 5 is Adul Carter. I don't think there's really too much to say. His strengths being his elite athleticism. I think he has a very good pass rushing technique. He has a great bend around the edge. And when I say bend, he does not swing it, right? If you look here, right? Or he cut inside. My bad. I thought he was going to go outside on that one. Let me see. Is there going to be a good one on the edge? He fights through contact. That's what I'm saying with his hands. He has great hands. Fights right there. He settles on the edge, and that's something I think he does really great. Right? And that's what I'm saying. He doesn't bend on the edge. See right here? Settles on the edge, fights through contact. 2 blockers, a tight end and looks like a guard. So, same thing here. He doesn't allow the tackle to push him upfield when he's coming around the corner. So, honestly, I think Adoob Carter, head and shoulders, is the best edge rusher. I did have James Pierce up there. He is my number 2. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. But, NFL comp-wise, I have him compared to Harold Landry III. I probably botched his name a little bit. I'm so sorry. That's my NFL comp for him. And I would say Adoob Carter is the number 1 draft pick this year. Number 1 overall. He's at least top 5. I don't see him dropping past number 5. But he's my number 1. James Pierce, somebody I just mentioned a little earlier, he's my number 2, right? James Pierce, he is a very explosive off the snap. He's probably one of the most explosive guys off the snap. But he does have a tendency of running upfield a little bit. He did run up a little too much to my liking this past season. And I also believe some injuries have played into his play last season. So, all in all, I do think James Pierce is the best pass rusher in terms of the edge defenders in this draft. I do think he's the best pass rusher. Adoob Carter is probably the most well-balanced edge rusher. And where his game excels in is in the run game. I do think he probably needs to add some more the run defense that he has in his game. Right? James Pierce, a little bit better of a pass rusher. He's definitely my number 2. The comp that I have for James Pierce is TJ Watt. Personally, for me, James Pierce is still a top 10 edge rusher. I don't think you're going to get a better pure pass rusher in this year's class. And I can go back and forth between what Carter does better than what Pierce does better. But like I said, because Carter does have a little bit better run defense game than what James Pierce does, that's why I gave the edge to Carter. I think both guys are the top 2 in this year's class. And both guys are definitely top 10 without a doubt. Now, going into my number 3. Now, my number 3 is a little controversial. I know a lot of people probably have Stewart. I've seen some people go with Mike Green. Now, I will say Mike Green is in my list. He's in my top 5, just not my edge rushers. So, Mykel Williams is my number 3. I honestly believe he's the most versatile in terms of just raw talent that he has. I don't think he's utilized all the talent that he can display, right? A lot of that having to be with injuries. He's dealt with a lot of injuries being at Georgia. So you've never really gotten a full season out of Mykel Williams. So because of that, I do believe he's probably one of the most raw talents. But for what he has showcased on film with the limited polishing that he's had on his talents, really just pops off, right? The way he can play in the run game. I think he's one of the best shed blockers in terms of just pass rushing, run defense. He sheds blocks better than almost anybody on this list. It's just injuries. It hurts him, man. I would honestly, coming into this season, before the college football season was over, I personally thought Mykel Williams was going to jump as the number 1. I had James Pierce as my number 1. I thought Mykel Williams would make that jump and he wouldn't deal with as many injuries this year. But he didn't really make the jump that I thought he would, right? His NFL comp would be Leonard Floyd. I definitely think Mykel is a top 15. He could probably go top 10 depending on what kind of trades go down. But he's definitely top 15 material. I mean, he's a little high right there. He's a little high a couple times I've seen on the film. And that's another concern I would probably say that I have with Michael. How high he comes in off the snap is a little concerning. That's something that Carter and Pierce doesn't do as much. Honestly, they don't really do at all unless Carter is like shadowing the quarterback or shadowing the running back, seeing which way he's about to pop out. Other than that, Carter's not really high at all. Pierce ain't really high. That's the biggest concern, watching it right now. Michael Williams, how high he comes up off the snap. But he also has the long arms and the long reach, as you just seen there. He can bat balls down. I feel like he will be fine as long as he does not get hurt. As long as he can stay healthy, Williams will be all right. Now, at my number 4, I think some people were probably asking why Walker was not in my top 5 linebackers, right? And I mentioned something about that a little bit, stating that I believe he's going to be making the transition to edge rusher, right? So Jalen Walker has great speed to power. I think he's one of the fastest or explosive, just in terms of blitzing. And that's what I think is going to really help elevate or help the transitioning to edge rusher, with the fact that he was able to utilize his hands at a very efficient level when he was blitzing. And then he also came off the edge a whole lot for Georgia. You see him setting the edge here. I feel like he'll need a little bit more discipline in that aspect of setting the edge, because it's not his primary role in college. So I don't think he has all the ins and outs of what a edge rusher is supposed to do. But I do think he has the talent to make that conversion, and I think that would honestly suit him better than being a middle linebacker. Or even, you can probably play him as an outside linebacker role, but I think an edge rusher will really suit him extremely well. Now, Shamar Stewart is my number 5. Jalen Walker, his comparison was Micah Parsons. And, top 15, mid first, that's where I see Jalen Walker going. Now, Stewart, my NFL comp for him is Myles Garrett. He has, I think, out of all the defensive edge rushers, he's probably one of the best. He has one of the best frames, right? I think he has some of the best tools. I just don't think he's unlocked his full capability yet, right? So that's why I say he's about late first round. I could see him going top 20, might creep into the 15s, but late first round, has the ability to recognize and utilize his hands. Could he do it a little bit better? Most definitely. I don't think he's as explosive. That's what I don't see in his handwork. He's really more cordial with it. He's not as explosive, and you don't really see a lot of extreme rips. It seems like he's a little more soft with it, and I would love to see that aggressiveness when my defensive edge rushers, or my edge rushers, linebackers, D-Linemen, whoever's shedding the block. I would like to see them do it kind of aggressively, right? But that's probably about my only criticisms. He's not as explosive. He don't really have the aggressiveness when it comes to shedding blocks. But I feel like that is stuff that can definitely be taught when you move to the next level. So, go ahead and go to Mason Graham, my number 1 D-Lineman. But, all in all, with my edge rusher class, Carter is clearly the top of the class. James Pierce is definitely top 10. I feel like if it wasn't for injuries and the little subtleness in his game, he could definitely crack the top 5. when it comes to Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker, Shamin Stewart, I probably botched his name up. I believe all three guys could definitely go in the top 15, no later than top 20, depending on what type of trades are made, right? Do I believe all guys are actually going to go top 15? No. Could they all possibly go top 15? I do see it. But now let's talk a little bit about defensive linemen, right? Mason Graham, obviously, he's my number one guy. In terms of overall balance, I think he's the best pass rusher. I think he's the best run defender in the interior D-line. He has a quickness off the ball. He's very aggressive, disruptive with his block shedding. That's something I really love to see. Now, something that I would, critique him a little bit. It doesn't look like he really utilizes too many pass rushing moves. Like, in terms of, it just looks like he pushes, sheds. I don't really see any dips or anything too crazy. So it looks really simple on what he does. I do believe he probably needs to add in a one or two pass rushing techniques into his game to kind of elevate it. Because right now it all looks a little simple, and his athleticism and his strength really just helps that pass rushing technique that he utilizes on film. I don't really that separates him, that really allow him to create separation. It just looks like he utilizes his speed and his strength, and that's what gets him through the block sheds. Now, he's top 10 definitely for me. My comparison for Mason Graham would be more of an Aaron Darnold type. I feel like he really fits that Aaron Darnold role, and what his abilities showcase. He can really fit that Aaron Darnold role, but like I said, he doesn't really have the development in his pass rushing techniques. I would like to see a little bit more development in his pass rushing techniques. Now, my number two guy, Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, transferred from Texas A&M to Ole Miss this past season. Played at Ole Miss this past season. My comparison for him would be Quincy Williams. Now, I would say he doesn't have a lot of explosiveness off the snap, right? And he's very inconsistent on terms of how explosive he's going to be in any given snap. I don't really see a consistent rate of him coming off the ball with aggression, right? There's some snaps where he comes off and he's really aggressive, and then there's other snaps he comes off and it's more mellow in terms of how he comes off the line. So that's why he's my number two. I do think he's a little more refined of a pass rusher in terms of technique-wise. He utilizes a little bit more techniques than what Mason Graham does. But because of the inconsistency, that doesn't really matter, right? You can have all the great techniques in the world, but if you don't have that aggressive motor coming off the snap, then you're not going to really be able to utilize those techniques. So Walter Nolan, for me, he does have a lot of great upside, but I just like to see the consistency kind of step up a little bit. I would like to see a more consistent, aggressive snap coming off the snap in his play style. Now, Walter Nolan is definitely top 15. He could fall out of the top 15 because of because of that concern of the inconsistency and probably some conditioning concerns that I've heard a rumor about. I don't really know how serious that is. At number 3, I have Derek Harmon. I think in terms of upside, it is a little... Okay. I think in terms of upside, it's a little lower than what Mason Graham or Nolan is. But just like how Mason Graham, I believe, is one of the most balanced defensive tackles in this class, I think Harmon is right there with him. He's consistently aggressive off the snap. He has a high motor every time I've watched. And he utilizes his techniques a whole lot. Now, where I would say his kind of a downside is in that rushing game, I would like to see him come off the blocks a little bit better in the rushing aspect. Now, I do think he utilizes his pass techniques a little better than Nolan or Gray. I do believe he is a little more in his pass rushing techniques. I do believe he has a little bit more in his bag, but because of his run game, where I grade him in his run game, I do have him as my number 3. I would like to see him improve in terms of rushing, run defense. Now, I definitely could see him going top 20. Now, this is somebody I'm really excited about with Mike Green. Redshirt sophomore, put him at DN, let him work in with your offense. But I do believe Mike Green's a guy that you can really move up and down that defensive line. He's extremely aggressive off the snap. Now, I do believe that aggressiveness can bite him with an over pursuing, but he's very aggressive off the snap. He has a very great swim move. I think he utilizes that swim move and his other pass rushing techniques better than a lot of these guys on the list. And that's something that I was mentioning about Mason Graham. Like, you don't have to have multiple different pass rushing techniques, right? You can really only have one or two that you lock in with, right? The push and shed that a lot of guys do. That's the common one that you learn. You lock out and you shed off. Another one that a lot of guys learn is the swim move or the spin. But just locking out and shedding off in the NFL, you're not going to be able to do that. That's why I said that's probably my only critique for Mason Graham. I would like to see him kind of utilize those pass rushing techniques a little bit more, because at the NFL level, those guys are going to be seriously a lot stronger than what you're facing in college. Right? It's the best of the best for a reason. So you're going to find a lot of extremely talented offensive linemen you didn't face at the college level, but you're going to face them at the pro level because you're weeding out the talent, basically. So, but, Mike Green, he utilizes that. But I think in terms of awareness, he does need to improve on it. In terms of just overall ability in his game. But raw talent, I think a very interesting pick in the first round. Somebody that I think you can definitely grow into a tremendous talent would be Mike Green. Jack Sawyer is my number 5. Now, a little FYI, I don't think I explained it earlier in the video, but a little FYI, I do believe when it comes, or I jumbled that up. I'm so sorry. But I do say a lot. Anyways, so when it comes to my D-line, I don't know if I said this earlier, but it's really a mixture of defensive ends and D tackles. That's why it's the D-line list. And then my edge rushers are guys that I could see playing a little outside linebacker. That's why, my two categories are a little mixed up. Some people probably don't understand why I'm doing what, but my DNs and my D-line or my DTs are in my top 5 D-line. So a lot of people will watch this and wonder why Mike Green wasn't an edge rusher, because I have him playing more of a DN role, not really of an outside linebacking role. That's why he's not in the rushing game where he doesn't over pursue. And I'll also like to see him like in the rushing game where he doesn't over pursue. And I'll also like to see him, like you see here, kind of make the bends a little bit better. You could see at a certain point, you don't need to keep going upfield. You need to come back inside. So there's little subtleties in his game that I think he can improve on. But Jack Sawyer is definitely my number 5. Now, for my mock draft, right? So we're going to be doing the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New England Patriots, and the New York Giants. Full 7 rounds. All right. So with this one, I go quarterback every time. I do believe Jackson's Dart. If it's not Shedeur Sanders, I've heard people, I've heard the rumor wheel has been flowing, that Shedeur is going to fall. I'm going with that he is going to fall, and I'm going to go Jackson Dart. For the Patriots, I'm going to go ahead and go McMillan. You kind of go ahead and shore up your defense in free agency. You went ahead and made the trade for Moss at right tackle. So I'll say go ahead and get that receiver. Right here, Will Campbell. I would say go ahead and just, for the Giants, I would say go ahead and bolster up that offensive line to protect Dark, because if you don't, you're just throwing your rookie quarterback to the Wolves. And I don't really like throwing the rookie quarterbacks to the Wolves. It's kind of not my forte. Now, with the Jaguars, I do make a couple trades with the 36th pick. I normally trade it away. When it comes to the Patriots, I trade it away and I don't trade it away. But here, I'm only moving down a couple spots, so I'll go ahead and make that trade. I think safety is something that I've really been eyeing that the Patriots really need. Andrew Mabuka is kind of the guy that I go every time right there. Back. Kind of look at these two trades. I think this is a better offer. Now, here at pick 69, I've been going Quinson Junkins. I feel like for the Patriots, I haven't seen a really impressive run game from the New England Patriots. Go ahead. I normally make about 2 trades every draft. I make about 2 trades for these teams. Now normally I go Fairchild. I'll trade down later on and I'll go Fairchild. But I don't think he's going to be there, quite honestly. I normally go Elijah from Miami right here, but with Gunnar Helm still on the board, that's who I'm going to go with because I do have him as a higher tight end. Now, I don't get too crazy when it comes to these drafts. Kobe Bryant, very easy. I don't think you can really question that too much. Something else I do, I go Ricky White. He's somebody that I think will fit perfectly with the Giants. I mean, with the Jaguars. Same thing here. I kind of go receiver. Now, I do like the group of receivers that I've gotten for this. Normally, I don't get these set of receivers, right? But I think Nick Nash, Troy Horton, probably be Anton Wells, kind of wait, Dante Thornton. I'm going to go ahead and go Nick Nash, right? Jeffrey Bassa. Let's see. Here at 105. I've already went tight end a little early. Jack Sawyer is still here. I'm going to go ahead and go Jack Sawyer. Going tight end will probably be the smart choice. But you know what? I'm going to go offensive line here. See, Walker right here is somebody that I think could really play up and down that line. I liked his combine. I checked out his film. He's somebody I think you can definitely steal in the 4th or 5th round. Muhammad, I think he's a very versatile player. You can probably play him a lot in the secondary, nickel, safety, corner. I think you can really utilize him up and down. Femi, I cannot say his full name, but I think Femi is going to be a sneaky steal. Go Jack Kaiser. Ty Robertson. Really and truly, the last couple picks, you know, the last 6th and 7th round, it's just really getting the best available. All right, so kind of a review of what we did for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We went Will Campbell, Mason Taylor. Did a trade. We got Houston 2nd, Washington 2nd, and a Miami 3rd. But we got Mason Taylor, Kobe Bryant, Ricky White, Jabbar Muhammad, Femi, Olafa Femi, probably messed up his name, Garrett from LSU, a guard from LSU, Dante Trader Jr., safety out of Maryland, and Joseph Gray, a guard out of Oregon State. We went McMillan with the 4th pick. We went Andrew Mabuka with the 43rd pick because we traded. Got a 3rd round for Buffalo. Went Quinshawn Junkins, Jeffrey Bassa, Anthony Belton, a tackle from NC State, David Walker. I think he's someone who's going to really play more of a D-tackle role instead of an edge rusher. But he's really going to be utilized on that defensive line. Jack Kaiser. I think that's a great linebacking combination because that Notre Dame defense was amazing last year. Jack Kaiser being the leader of that group, pairing him up with Jeffrey Bassa, I think you're going to really have a good linebacking duo right there that can kind of learn in the next few years. Really, this year and next year. Surreal, another edge rusher, you know, kind of helping put up that pressure. And then Shiloh Sanders, I think, adding a hard-hitting safety. I really like his aggressiveness back there in the secondary. So Shiloh was there, had to go get him. New York went Jackson Dart, Gray, a guard out of North Dakota State, Gunnar Helm, tight end out of Texas. I went Nick Nash. I figured, you know, what a good draft right there. Now, let me know what y'all think of my 3 mock drafts. Kind of look at what, hold on real quick, let's look at the full results. So Shador ended up falling to number 12. Travis Hunter went number 6. James Pierce, we had a trade. James Pierce went number 19. Shareem Stewart went 15. Malik Williams went 16. Mason Graham went 7. Duke Carter went 2. Walker Harmon went 27. I don't really see the hype on Nick Scorton. Now, I don't. There might be a lot of hype that I just ain't seen yet. Walter Nolan. I think that's a really good spot for Nolan to go. Right there at 32. Let's see what the second round looking like. Kenneth Grant fell to number 45. I do like that pickup by the Falcons. I feel like that's going to be a really good pickup. Hairston Falling, I think the 51, that'd be a sneaky steal. He's my corner number 3. See any surprising names in the 7th? Kobe Simon is still there. I believe he can definitely go in the top 5 rounds. Antoine Wells, someone I do believe can go in the top 5 rounds. Preston Smith. He's going to be a sneaky gadget guy. I feel like this guy right here be extremely explosive. But anyways, don't know what that is. Go back. But without further ado, y'all, appreciate it. See y'all next time.